Hello, folks. Welcome to the live stream this afternoon. My name's James. I'm CEO of Mobilize. We are the tech startup by carers and for carers. We've been working for a good few months, nearly a year now, with different local authorities, CCGs, and carer supporting organisations, very often carer centres, to provide support for unpaid carers. The UK's 13.6 million people who are, one way or another, looking after a family member, a friend, or a neighbor, particularly through these difficult times. We're doing all of that online, so we picked up all sorts of interesting conversations, and we wanted to bring some of those conversations to you this evening and through this series of live streams, which we're calling Build Back Better for Carers. Carers have had a really, really tough time of it over the last year, and there's an opportunity as we come out of COVID and look to the future to think about how we can build back better, to reshape our system, to make sure that it's working for those people who make up the vast majority of those providing social care in this country. I am really pleased today to be joined by Jacqui Darlington, who is, among many other things, a member of the Mobilize community. She's a carer herself, but she's also really active both at a local and a national level at shaping the conversation about carers support as a whole generally. She's been mentioned in the New Year's Honours this year and awarded a British Empire Medal, and we're going to talk about all of those different things as well as her vision for what we can be achieving. So I'm going to bring her in now and say, hello, Jacqui. Welcome.
Hello, James. Thank you.
How are you doing today, Jacqui?
I think I'm doing okay. You know, as carers go, we get good days and bad days, but today's a good day.
Fantastic. Well, that's such a good way of looking at it because, as you say, sometimes we can be on real highs, but there are some real lows. And just checking in every day: is this a good day? Is this a bad day? How am I doing? Is a really powerful thing to do. Jacqui, you've been on a whirlwind for the last few weeks, I know, what with all of the challenges of lockdown, and we're going to talk about the British Empire Medal, which you've been awarded in a moment as well. But I've in my own ham-fisted way, I've tried to introduce you to everybody who's watching and listening. Could you say a little bit about yourself, your caring role, and the work that you've been doing as well?
Okay, like you all know, my name's Jacqui Darlington. And I've been caring for, 28 years with the birth of my son Joshua, who was born with Down syndrome. And at the age of 21, he was diagnosed with autism as well. Joshua has got no language that is understandable by except for those that's close to him. So we spend a lot of time trying to interpret things, trying to make sure that we're understanding him correctly. But don't worry, Joshua will make sure that you know whether it's right or wrong. Apart from caring for Joshua, I have cared for my mum in the past, before she went into a nursing home. Unfortunately, she's now died, but I understand a lot of the caring around caring for parents as well. I volunteer with lots of different organisations because I believe in getting the word out there that carers are there. And carers need to know what's available to them. And if we don't find out what's available, who's going to tell us? So my role really is trying to find out what's available, and then I let the whole world know. So I do a bit of volunteering work with Carers UK, Mobilize, and locally within the Leicestershire and Rutland area. I don't think there's anything else I can say.
Well, thank you, Jacqui. And I know that many people watching will be familiar with you and your work. And hello to everybody who is watching. Please do say hi in the comments so that we know you're there, and ask any questions as we go through, or if you have any thoughts or messages of support and encouragement, please do share them. Jacqui, I want to start off by asking a question about how lockdown has affected your caring role and what's kept you going through, because it's a huge disruption. And I think one of the really difficult things for us to get our heads around is just the enormity of the impact that lockdown can have when you've got a caring role. What's it look like, and what's it felt like for you over the last, 11 months?
Oh gosh, right at the beginning of lockdown, I took ill with COVID-like symptoms. I was never tested, but I was really ill. And for 2 weeks, I was bedbound. And my eldest son, Ashley, was fortunate enough to get time off work, and he took over not only caring for me, but also for his brother. After that, it took me a while to come round and to pick the baton back up, if you like, and start running again. And it was really difficult because I hadn't realised that everything, while I was in bed, sort of not with it, I hadn't realised that everything had shut down, that all the activities that Joshua used to go to and everything else. And Ashley'd gone off to work, and I'm left thinking, okay, what do I do with him? What do I do? Where do I go? And it was really difficult to start with. And we invented games. We played some silly games outside, and because he took the instructions literally, stay home, stay safe. He was not going out of that door. So even to the point of running out of things in the fridge to make sandwiches was the only way that I could get Josh to go out. So it was really difficult to start with. And then once you settle back into a routine and you sort of say, right, this is what you're doing here. So, it's like getting a new visual timetable for him. And so that he knew what was going on, because it was a shock to his system as well. So it took a while. And after that, it wasn't too bad. We managed to get going. And then once everything opened up again, we started a little bit. And then we realized this isn't going to work for us anymore. So I had to redo his timetable. I had to apply for more direct payments because his schedule had all changed. And fortunate enough, I was lucky enough to get it and start on another track, if you like, doing different things. But it's been difficult. I'm not going to deny it. It's been really difficult at times working out what is the right way to be doing things. Am I just making it easier for me? Am I doing the best for Joshua? Because with him not being verbal, you could ask him a question and he'll say, all right. But that doesn't really give you a good foundation for you to build anything on, and you're having to make best interest decisions all the time. So, like I've said before, I am aware that things might have been rough for me, but I've had other people that I could talk to. But there's people out there that's not had the same support. And if it wasn't for Mobilise and other carers groups that I belong to, I'm not sure how I would have got through to today.
Well, I'm really pleased, Jacqui, that Mobilise has been some help through this, and I know that no support can ever make it easy. And I wonder if you can say a little bit more about that tension that you have between making a decision that you're confident is in Joshua's best interests, and also making sure that you're doing what you need to help you and support you getting through. Because there's the old metaphor or simile, whatever it is, of putting an oxygen mask on a plane, right? You've got to look after yourself, haven't you? How have you been finding that you can balance those needs in a helpful way?
I'm going to be honest. I don't think there's any carer that put their own oxygen mask on first. We tend to look at what the needs of the person we're caring for, and it's only when we can't meet those needs then we reach for the oxygen mask, if you want to call it that way, and we scream for help. We find it really difficult to put ourselves first. But it is a matter of making sure that I know that if Joshua is secure and Joshua's doing okay, then I will be okay. And I feel that majority of the carers feel that way. If the person they're caring for is okay, then you're okay. And that's the only time you really do take a break. And actually to put into practice, you know, putting yourself first, it's I find it hard. I find it almost impossible to do. And that's, I think, is the nature of caring. Because the moment you decide that you're going to sit and have a cup of tea, there's always someone going to be calling you anyway. So by the time you get around to your cup of tea, it's stone cold. I've been known to have a bath in the middle of the day when he's not here, so that, you know, I can do what I want to do. But with lockdown, that's not the case. It's putting Joshua first all the time, making sure he's got what he needs and to make him happy.
And I mean, by the way, on the having a bath in the middle of the day front, I mean, you say it with a smile because it's a slightly flippant remark, I think, but actually there's something about something I've noticed in the way we kind of talk to each other as carers is that you very quickly get down to what actually matters, what works. So if it's slightly peculiar to take a bath in the middle of the day, but actually that's what works, then brilliant. We'll sign up for that. And I think that's really important. Remember, identifying what matters. And I want to ask, you've mentioned the adjustments to Joshua's routine, and you mentioned the direct grant conversations that you were having. Through this process, can you tell us a little bit about how you've been engaging with the support from your local authority and the other agencies that are working around you? I mean, has it been possible for them to provide any support? How flexible can things be at this point?
Now it's different to what it was when we went through lockdown one. Lockdown one, when everything came to a stop, nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew what was happening. And the service that was being offered for Joshua just was not meeting his needs at all. And I actually told them that. But while telling them that, I said I sort of did research and found out what I thought would be better, and priced it all up for them and sent it all off to them. So the decision was then theirs to make as to whether to go ahead with what I'd suggested or not. But because there was no services being provided, they went along with what I suggested, and it worked really well. And I think it's got to be a two-way dialogue. But not all carers are like me. Not all carers will actually be proactive and go and research for the activity, the support, or anything like that. But there are times I do wonder sometimes, am I, one of the carers that people are saying, oh gosh, it's her coming again, that sort of thing. But I want the best I can get for my son, not for me, for my son. So talking to the local authority works really well. The local carer centre, which is in Leicester, it's the Carer Centre Leicester, Leicestershire and Rutland. And they have been a godsend in the sense of the craft activities that they put on. So you're doing that via Zoom. And they send all the craft bits out as well. So you're not having to go out and buy all the bits and pieces. They send everything to you. And if you run out of anything, you say, "Oh gosh, I've got no glue." Next thing you know, the glue comes. But they've been brilliant. They do games nights. They do, as I say, the crafting, book reading. Something they've started recently, and and I'm thinking, oh, that sounds really good. Let's give that a go. And I will try anything once to sort of make time for me.
Yeah.
And it's all about making time for yourself.
It's really striking, both in what you're describing with the local authority and with your local carer centre there, that that there's been a real shift, particularly actually between lockdown 1 and whether or not you call this lockdown 2 or 3, which is that actually we've discovered a whole shed load of new ways of working, and some of them work really well, some of them have fallen flat on their face, and we've had a few of them at Mobilize, but there's that opportunity to try new things, see what works, and having these remote craft sessions is a really good example of something that we'd never have thought of doing previously, but can actually be really effective in the new way, in the new world that we're living in. And I want to move on in just a moment to think about what we can learn from that and take forward. But before I do, I just want to bring in Claire, who's been commenting, saying that it's a big responsibility to be making decisions on behalf of someone else, and being the one person who's kind of balancing someone else's best interest with your own needs, and I think that's a lot of pressure that a lot of carers will be feeling as well. And so, Jacqui, I want to ask where you, and we're zooming out now a little bit from your personal experience to some of the broader experiences that you've seen locally and around the country. What is it that you've seen getting carers through? I don't think we can reasonably expect this to be sort of the best time of a carer's life at the moment, but what is it that's giving them the resources and the energy and the things they need to be getting through over the last couple of months?
I think they're having to make new friendships, new friends. You can't go out and meet people, so you're having to do it all virtually. You're learning new skills, whether you like it or not. You're learning new skills. You're learning how to use Zoom, Google Meet, Microsoft Teams, whatever platform it is. You've got to learn the way how to use that. Another thing I think what's really come in handy and useful for me is the friends that you have got, getting in touch with them, talking to them. I am now doing exercise with Jerry every other morning. So we've got our iPads so we can see what each other's doing.
Amazing.
And then we've got YouTube on. I'm trying to follow those exercises as well. But, because none of us are feeling that we're getting the exercise we should be getting. I mean, all right, there's snow now, so nobody's going out for walks. But I'm not one for walking. And, Jerry's just sort of thought, come on, let's get us fit. Let's get some weight off us, because we're feeling like everybody else is feeling that, you're putting on weight, you're not doing anything, so you're not burning off the fat that you're eating all the time. So that's how we're doing this, and we're doing this 3-4 times a week, only for half an hour. But
fantastic idea.
It's absolutely brilliant, and I just think that's the way forward. I think is the fact that you've got to think outside the box. And you can't do what you normally do. So let's do it a little different. Let's find another way to do things. Sorry.
Please finish off. Go for it.
Another thing that Jerry and I do is that we have a girlies' night on a Saturday night. And that's, John's had his tea. Her children's had their tea. And it's 8 o'clock. So technically, we shouldn't be disturbed, but we are. And sometimes we decide that we're going to dress up, we're going to pretend we're in a hotel ordering cocktails. Other time we think, let's have a duvet night. It's whatever works for you.
Yeah, there's something really important in there about growing networks and actually being able to call on networks that you have. I mean, networks, it sounds such a ridiculous word, but I mean, what we're talking about is friends, right? And I think that's the word you used. So we've done a bit of work with psychologist Warren Donnellan at Liverpool University, looking at what can really enable carers to keep going through difficult situations, and it's networks, communities, friendships, being able to draw on other people, not necessarily to kind of proactively do an awful amount, but actually to be there, to listen, to have a laugh with, to remind you of what it is to have normal life sometimes, which is really important. And Jacqui, you mentioned thinking ahead and kind of creating new ways to keep each other going. We're talking in this series about building back better for carers. Do you have a sense of what you would love to happen? Let's say 10 years time, we look back and we say, oh well, look at the fantastic work we've done as a result of COVID-19. What are the big changes that you would like to see for carer support in the next couple of years?
I would like to see that support is offered rather than being asked for.
Mm-hmm.
As carers, we don't know what is available. And sometimes it takes us reaching crisis points, or it might be talking to Jack next door or to someone else in the same situation. But it would be lovely to be offered various services before you get to that crisis point. And if various things was offered before you got to the point where I can't cope no more, then things would be so much better. I mean, I'm going back to when I was talking about before COVID, whatever, when Josh was about, I don't know, in his teens, and the issues I was having then. And I was talking about them, and they were like saying, well, it's part of him having Down syndrome. And I just got to the point one day where I picked up the phone and said to the doctor, I can't do this anymore. And he sort of said, right, why? And I said, I've not had more than 4 hours sleep in 20 odd years. And, the doctor spent time over the phone breaking it all down for me. Sort of, why is that? And I said, well, I had a 2-year-old when I had Joshua, so I didn't get back into a normal sleep pattern. And it turns out that he said, right, okay. And he started putting things into place. And diagnosis took place, and he was diagnosed with autism, which then opens another set of doors. It's not that you want a label, it's just that it opens the doors to services that you would not normally think about getting. So for me, in the future, I think it needs to be people listening to carers. When we say we can't cope, don't wait till we bang in on the door. We just sort of say, I need help here. Can you help me? And whatever needs to be done, or at least tried, because it's not that whatever they offer is always going to work. It's got to be tried, and then you sort of say, well, that didn't work. Okay, let's try this and see where you go from there.
I think that's a really important learning point, that whatever support we might think is going to be really helpful is going to be different for each person and each situation, and making sure that we can try different things and go with each other on a journey, actually, to explore what might be helpful. And of course, those things might be different at different times. And one of the key things I'm hearing from you is that we need to start a conversation really early, and just keep that conversation going, because things will change and needs will change as we go along. And actually, the earlier that we can start that conversation, then the better prepared we are for whatever might come our way as we go along. Jacqui, that's a really helpful set of observations there. And I wonder if there was one thing you could change around the way, one kind of practical shift that you would love to see in the way we do social care at the moment. What would that be for you?
Oh gosh, everyone talks about person-centered planning and person-centered approach, but it would be lovely to see it in action. At the moment, there's a lot of talk and a lot of paperwork, but nothing is in action. And I think I'd like to see more action, really. It's no good saying, oh gosh, it would be good if he could do such and such, and putting it on paper. That Josh likes cooking, but not do anything proactive to help him to do it.
Right.
And I think it's got to be something that is more around the person that you're caring for. So for social services to look at what the person needs and to help them to have those needs, meet those needs, and meet some of the wants as well, because sometimes they go hand in hand. Not because I want to break. If I say I want to break, people think, oh, well, you just want to go off on your jolly. But when I say I want, it might be that I need a break.
Yeah.
So I think people need to wear that up.
There's a really important part of making sure that we have that support available for when people for people to draw on, not necessarily because they need to go through the challenge of psychologically. I mean, you mentioned at the beginning of this conversation that it can feel really difficult to balance your own needs with the best interest of the person that you're caring for. And if we add another layer to that, which says you've got to be really banging on the door to demand it, then that's just creating another hurdle. So I think there are some really helpful things for us to take away there, Jacqui, that there's a need to be proactive in talking about meeting needs. There's a need to get in early and to offer support, sometimes at a really light touch level. I use the phrase upstream, but preventative, or whatever you might call it, and to make sure that we're listening to carers as well in the support that we provide. I think that's really important. Jacqui, thanks so much for the time. Before we finish off, is there anything else that you want to say to the people who've joined us and who are listening in?
Carers, hang in there. You are going to get through this. Just keep talking to people. And on a personal level, I'd like to say thank you to all those people that have wished me good wishes and congratulations on me getting the British Empire Medal.
Well, absolutely, Jacqui. I wanted to finish off by asking you, well, first up, whether or not you've got a hat to go and to wear when you get the medal, and how you're feeling about and what it means to you to be mentioned on the honours list for the work that you're doing.
First of all, no, I've got no hats, and no, the shops aren't open for me to choose a hat.
Of course.
And I forgot what number 2 was, but I feel just humbled and honoured to have been nominated. When I do what I do, including sitting up late at night and doing a newsletter, sending that out to carers and answering emails, and one of the other things I've also done, which I've not mentioned, how dare I, is I started a group for young adults with additional needs. And at the moment, that's been a real struggle because they are suffering mentally, not being able to see each other, and they don't make friends naturally. So I'm having to think outside the box and try and find ways to meet their needs, which at the moment we're doing it mainly virtually. But at the same time, I'm on the other end of the phone if anybody wants to talk to me. But no, on the whole, I just feel really grateful and honoured to have received this British Empire Medal. Thank you.
And Jacqui, if anybody wants to support the work that you're doing or to get involved, what's the best way of finding out more information?
About the Out of Hours Club Rutland, you mean?
All of the work that you're doing, both with the.
Okay, I mean most of the groups I'm involved with is Mobilise Yourself, which we've got links to that, and they can get through you, James. The Carers UK, again, a national company that's quite public. They can find me on Twitter. They can find me on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm personally there. You can just look for Jacqui Darlington and send me a direct message, and I will respond and signpost you to whatever information you may need, or to come and join us.
Brilliant. Jacqui, thanks so much for your time this evening. It was a real treat to talk to you, and I know everybody wants to wish you congratulations on your honour, the British Empire Medal. So thank you very much for sharing a bit of your experience over the last 11 months, but also your thoughts on how we can build back better for carers. It's great to have your input, and thanks for all that you're doing.